Welcome into the Dead Arm Sports Podcast. Josh and Jel coming at you on the opening day of the Waste Management Phoenix Open. Great weekend kicks off today. I am extremely excited about this. We have a jam-packed show for you. Going to give you a Super Bowl preview along with our picks, prop bets, Drew Lock, playoff edition, final episode of that portion or segment. And then, of course, the Waste Management Phoenix Open preview. That segment is jam-packed as well. But I want to kick it off with a little golf QOTD today, Joe. Besides the Masters, is there even a close second to the Waste Management Phoenix Open? I mean, is that your number two, I guess? Or
entertainment-wise, this is easily entertainment-wise, this would be number one just for pure entertainment. I mean, the Masters, obviously you're locked in because it's the greatest tournament in the world, but possibly in the universe. But I mean, God, that 16th hole and just entertainment wise is absolutely nuts. You get to see last year. I don't think it was I don't think it was Higgs that ended up making that hole in one. I think it was his playoff partner, his playing partner.
Was Sam Ryder made one on Saturday, and then Carlos Ortiz made it on Sunday.
I think he was playing with Ortiz then, and Higgs is playing with him, and he rocks the butt or the dude wipes sponsored shirt, and he's anything about Mr. Higgs, he's got a nice dad bod going on, and he goes out there, he rips his shirt off, he's twirling it around like a cowboy with a lasso, just having a good time. Everybody's throwing their tall boys out on the feet or out on the course. So that was my all-time favorite moment last year was Higgs going deep with that. But no, I mean, this is, you mentioned before we started recording that the new, revamped PGA Tour made this one of the more marquee events. Do you have more details on that and kind of what what they're targeting with that?
Yeah.
Because this is one of those events that should be one of the hottest, most, high-end marquee events out there.
Yep. So the PGA Tour, along with all of the LIV stuff last year, wanted to get more money into some of the purses for some of the bigger events of the season that would ultimately draw more of the top ranked players in the world. So this is the first of a few elevated or designated events on the calendar year. So the purse bumped up to 20 million for this one. So we'll get through the notables here at the end of the show on all the big names that are playing. And it is quite the laundry list. So going to have just an absolute loaded field in this one. And yeah, there isn't another tournament that compares to this. Yes, you have the allure of Augusta and the green jacket. So that one will be number one, but I don't know that there's a better 4 finishing holes to a tournament than at the Phoenix Waste Management Open. You've got 15, which is a par 5 that is a huge risk reward. It's a peninsula green that on Sunday that guys that are chasing the lead are trying to decide if they want to go for it in 2, be rewarded with an eagle putt. But again, if you miss that green, it's water surrounding it. So you're having a huge risk reward there. You get to the stadium that is 16 with the crowd going nuts. That is just unbelievable. 17, they've turned into a little bit of a stadium as well. There's so many grandstands and so many patrons and fans at the 17th. That is a short par 4. You got water on the left-hand side.
They're advertising that 17th hole as hole 16 light.
So yeah, they keep bumping that one up, which that one is an unbelievable hole too, that we've seen so many guys drive the green. I love when they put that flag in that back left corner because that green just slopes towards the water. So you have to be very careful on your approach shot. And 18 is awesome too. You got the tee shot over the water, which with today's technology, those guys, the water's not really even in play anymore, but you got the church pew bunkers that are over on the left-hand side that we saw Ricky go into the year that he won it, had to hit a hell of a shot out of the grass in between the 2 traps there and ended up winning that tournament. But just 4 unbelievable finishing holes that are right up there with any 4-hole stretch, I think, in all of golf. So,
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned 15. That's one of those holes on Sunday, I think, when you really like, it's like, okay, what are my options here?
yep.
Like, could I'm 2 strokes back now. If I go eagle on this hole, I've got a chance going into 16, 17, 18, where if like you've got a commanding lead, you might as well lay up. But a lot of times, I mean, you mentioned this bomb field that we've got. I don't see any way that anybody runs away with this. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of aggressive shots going onto that island green, which is just going to make for an extremely fun weekend.
Yep. It will be a little bit different of a look on the 16th. I figure this is as good of time as any to bring it up, but I was looking on Golf Digest's website a little bit earlier on today. An article caught my eye, and that is that 16th hole look a little bit different this year. And I will read off the little tidbit here. Golf Digest, according to the PGA Tour, the measures that are being taken on the 16th hole include, but are not limited to, the following. Well, number one, all alcoholic beverages on the 16th will be served in commemorative plastic cups. So there won't be any actual aluminum pints that are full just being pelted down upon the players. So this is obviously for safety purposes. They're doing this. And also there was a lot of damage that was done to the course from
I'm sure there
some of those full
yeah.
beers last year. So number two, fans will not be allowed to enter the 16th from other areas with a canned alcoholic beverage. So again, trying to limit the amount of cans. Elevated security and police presence in both the general admission and hospitality areas on the 16th. A social media campaign on this policy as well, and then signage in general admission and hospitality areas of zero tolerance for throwing anything onto the course. So we will see if how well they enforce it, if everyone in attendance there is throwing stuff onto the course. But again,
I feel like
they did this though because it was super cool when Sam Ryder hit his hole in one last year, but then they started getting just wasted. And anytime anyone made a birdie or any big putt or anything like that, they would just start raining down cans, which I mean, it's cool for a hole in one, but I mean, that hole is one of the easier ones if you hit the green to get a birdie on.
True.
We don't need to be stopping play and holding it up for every single birdie, but still, I mean, it was so cool. And that just the videos of that, I was going through watching it today because they're popping up all over the place with it being the Waste Management Week, but just so cool just seeing stuff just raining down on this hole.
I get it from like a logical point
Safety
of view,
standpoint.
like a safety thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure that some of those people some of the people in the stands, especially if you're in like the bottom, like first or second row for some of those people, you know, because they've got the awning over the top. People in the top row are probably trying to like avoid that roof and just throwing freaking line drives and possibly pelting people in the back of the head with full beers. So in the front couple rows. So I get that, I guess, but this felt like, I don't know, last year, it felt like those videos were some of the it's like, this is finally what like the PGA Tour, like what golf needed to almost go viral, which golf doesn't go viral that often unless it's Tiger, and like where the Nike symbol perfectly lines up right at the hole and tips in, like at the Masters of all places. Like this, and it's not like this is the classiest, it's not the classiest display, but I don't know. It was just, maybe I should appreciate it for, it was amazing for 1 year. When you bring up the fact that like, hey, somebody sunk a nice like 20-foot birdie putt and people are raining down cans, like, yeah, that's a little bit much. Yeah. I get that.
Well, you just think too, you've got all the volunteers that are lining the hole, caddies, people walking with the pros themselves. I mean, after Sam Ryder hit that hole in one last year, you could see a full beer bottle just like smashed down feet from him. Like if that hits you,
Yeah.
that's gonna hurt. So I
Yeah.
get why they're doing it, but again, like you said, we can appreciate what it was last year, and who knows, maybe we'll see it a little bit tamer this year. Or, hey, just chuck your beer up in the air
If
and
it's in it,
let the liquid
everybody
rain down.
throw their empty throw their plastic cups. That's at least pretty harmless. Like that's about
Yeah.
as harmless as it gets. So
Yeah.
outside of getting smoked, getting soaked with beer, which could feel nice on a hot Phoenix day.
Oh yeah.
So
Absolutely.
you just reek for the rest of the day like light beer, but which isn't great. But I don't know. I get it, but sad to see it go away. Glad we got our 1 year of it, though.
Absolutely.
Glad we got our 1 year of it.
We can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on Facebook at Dead Arm Sports. We are on YouTube, have been for a while. You should know that by now. Go to YouTube, subscribe, click the bell there so that way you know when our live episodes drop. We monitor that chat. You can ask us any questions there. Otherwise, find us on our socials at Dead Arm Sports, at DasJel. That's at DasJel. I can be found at DasJPEC. That's at DasJPEC. Give us a follow there. Subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform, and you will be the recipient of some Dead Arm Sports swag. City of Phoenix gets the double whammy this week, host of the Super Bowl, along with the Waste Management Phoenix Open. And we will kick it off with Super Bowl 57, Chiefs Eagles, aka the Andy Reid Bowl, aka the Kelsey Bowl. Philly, the 1.5 point favorites at this point, over under 50.5. Both one seeds make it into the Super Bowl here. For the first time in a while, it feels like. Seems like the one seeds have kind of struggled a little bit here and there, but ultimately we see the two most consistent teams, I think, throughout the season. What are some of the things you're looking for in this one, Joe?
Yeah, I think that you named it in terms of the two most consistent and truly most deserving teams. It's the two quarterbacks that have been sitting there since week 5 on, that have been at the top of the MVP race in Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. Yeah, you had a few weeks where it's like, hey, could Joe Burrow make a run? Hey, could Josh Allen make a run? Hey, could Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, could they make a run at it? But the two guys that were always really like in truest contention were Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. There were some doubts about Mahomes coming into this season, losing Tyreek Hill, but he had his best, all the reports said he had his best offseason coming into this year, knowing that he had to refocus. He couldn't just rely on, the kind of schoolyard bullshit plays that, oh, all right, well, hey, let me just throw it up to Tyreek Hill for a 60-yard touchdown. Like that wasn't going to be the reality of this season. Sorry, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, you're not quite Tyreek Hill. But in Philly, I think, overall, Philly's been the most consistent team all season. Most stacked roster, in my opinion. Both their offensive and defensive lines are top, if not at the top of the league, maybe, top three. I include defensive line with the pass rush. We saw Hassan Reddick make a massive leap. I mentioned this in the last episode, but make a massive leap this season from the player that he was before. He just turned into a pure pass rusher rather than, in years past, he'd been kind of a little bit more of like a hybrid player where they would put him into coverage and they would have him focus on, kind of play all over the place, even at times acting almost as a safety. And this offseason, they said, nope, you're going to be a pure pass rusher. And he had a breakout season. So he's been a massive, massive piece to that defense. It's the two best teams. It's the two best teams. And as boring as this sounds, it's going to come down to quarterback play. We've got two injured quarterbacks. They're both clearly not 100%. Mahomes does get 2 weeks to work on that ankle. Yep. We saw him as outstanding as he was in that AFC Championship game and being able to run for that, well, plus the 15-yard penalty, but run for that final play to set up the game-winning field goal. We got to see that. And Jalen Hurts, I still don't think that he's over that shoulder issue. I mean, he, in that last game, he really struggled with putting any sort of touch on the ball. And that's because he can't extend that shoulder as high as you need to be able to throw over the top. It was a lot of, just straightforward types of passes because he just doesn't have the flexibility, or didn't have the flexibility in that last game. Again, 2 weeks off though since that last game, so hopefully he's healed up a little bit. Hopefully Patrick Mahomes is healed up a little bit more, and we get to see the top 2 MVP candidates play at their best.
Yep. I'm curious to see when the Eagles have the ball on offense. Again, you mentioned, what is Jalen Hurts' injury look like? I mean, where he hasn't been really tested or have to throw the ball at all during these playoffs. So this is a game where they're not going to be able to rely on that run game that they have in their first 2 games against the Giants, against the 49ers on their 10th string quarterback coming in. It is one that I'm curious, because Chris Jones had a fantastic game last week against Cincinnati for the Kansas City defense. The defensive line is going to be looking to put some pressure on Jalen Hurts and make him throw the ball, try to take away that run game as well. So I'm very curious to see. That's one of my keys to this one, is what the Eagles offense looks like in Kansas City defense.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Chris Jones. Anytime that he's lining up, though, in the interior, he's going up against Jason Kelce, the best center in football. So I guess, just his presence alone, it's going to be interesting to see how, because he does bounce around that defensive line quite a bit, where he can line up on the left side in the interior and on the right side. So we might see a little bit more of him going on probably his right side, that Eagles left side of the offensive line, because Lane Johnson, while injured with that, again, another key injury in Lane Johnson with his partially torn quad, I still think that Chris Jones is probably going to line up. You'd rather have him line up opposite Lane Johnson, even though it's an injured one. So, which that could really end up helping out the Eagles if that's the case, and if that's what they do, because if you watch Jalen Hurts all season, the majority of his runs are pretty much he's lining up and shooting that A gap, that B gap in between the center guard or guard tackle, rather than, it's similar to kind of how Cam Newton would run the ball, rather than, rolling out to the outside and scrambling, which he is plenty capable of doing, but the design runs are generally in that A B gap. So if Chris Jones is deciding to line up on the outside because he doesn't want to get neutralized by the threat of Jason Kelce and his dominance, we could be seeing a just extremely dominant run game by the Eagles here. So, but Chris Jones also he's good enough to possibly neutralize Jason Kelce and be that force in the middle that slows down that Jalen Hurts up the butt running game. So he might be the key to, I think he could end up being the key to that Kansas City defense. Another note on that KCD, they ranked 31st out of 32 teams in defending the number 1 wide receiver against for their opponent. That's AJ Brown. That's one of the best receivers in the league. Do you see AJB going off this week knowing that stat? Or do you see Philly kind of just trying to stick to their running game and not trying to necessarily exploit that weakness?
I think they're going to come out and try and stick to what they've been doing so far in the playoffs to win games, but I do expect to have AJ Brown have a pretty big game in this one. If the Eagles win, it's going to be because he's had a touchdown or 2 and a couple big plays for them. So yeah, like you said, they've had trouble all season guarding that number 1 wide receiver. They don't have a shutdown corner at all. Their secondary really isn't extremely scary. It's more that pass rush that they try and get after the quarterback and have the quarterback get the ball out quick. But if the Eagles line can pass protect up front, give Jalen Hurts a chance, I think we'll see some pretty big damage from AJ Brown this week.
On the Eagles side of the ball defensively, I already mentioned Hassan Reddick, and we've seen that KC, those tackles on both sides of the ball at times getting exposed. Even Malcolm, or not Malcolm Brown,
Orlando Brown.
Malcolm Brown. That'd be
Future
interesting.
Bear.
Olin Kreutz on the line. I just think Hassan Reddick, he could be a huge difference maker as well. I mentioned that he had his breakout season. We've seen these defensive linemen make massive differences in the postseason or in Super Bowls. Last year, Von Miller, Aaron Donald, just in terms of just pure pass rushing ability against the Bengals. Awesome. That last time that KC was in the Super Bowl when they played Tampa, Devin White, JPP, we're seeing these guys that made a difference in the pass rush, and ultimately that's what it takes to slow down Patrick Mahomes. So I think that pass rush could be a difference maker as well. But again, to me, it comes down to this quarterback play because it's the Chiefs. I think we can agree here. Eagles overall roster, much more impressive. Patrick Mahomes, it feels to me though like this is the official moment of destiny where Brady actually retires and officially the torch is passed. I know that we all agree that Mahomes is the better quarterback at this point than Brady, and has been for 2 years probably at this point, or maybe even longer, depending on how you grade your quarterback play. But this feels like, I don't know, to me it feels like the official passing of the torch from Brady to Mahomes here. I don't know if where you sit on that.
Yeah, I think we'll see some Mahomes magic in this one too. Like you said, Hassan Reddick, I think, is going to be looking to put a lot of pressure. They're going to try and make Patrick Mahomes feel uncomfortable in the pocket and test out that ankle. But ultimately, yes, he was hobbled this last game, but when in between the snaps or during the snap, I guess, until they lined up again, it looked like he was just kind of ignoring it. I mean, when the actual play was going on, it didn't really look like it was that much of a factor. And then afterwards he'd be limping. So I think he's been able to kind of tune that injury out of his mind, at least when the play's going on. He's had 2 weeks to rest, like you said, too. So I don't really see it being too much of an issue. I think he is going to have to make a few more plays with his legs in this one than he did against Cincinnati. But it does feel like the torch is passing here to Patrick Mahomes, and we've kind of seen that writing on the wall here for the last few years, which is very deserving on his part. He's an amazing quarterback.
Yeah. So you said you had a line of Eagles.
Eagles on ESPN this morning. Again, we're recording on Tuesday the 7th. This morning, Eagles were 1.5 point favorites.
And that line started off at -2.5. So you've already seen a 1 point swing. Granted, you've got, that 2.5 was set at this point about 10 days ago, but still a 1 point swing is a significant swing. Where's your head? Where's your heart taking you on this one, Big J?
Two different spots, my friend. Two different spots.
Different heads. The one on top.
Side note here, we have a friendly wager between us four friends, me, Jel, my brother, and former podcast host Ricky here. And I picked the Eagles as my team. We all picked a different one. So my my heart is going with the Eagles. My head says the Chiefs. Fly, Eagles, fly. Let's go with the heart in this one. So the 1.5 point, I mean, it might as well just be
pick them
at this point. Yeah. So I'm not really concerned about that. I do think it's going to be a pretty close game. The Chiefs probably will end up winning this one, but Eagles, if their offense comes out and they do have a passing dynamic coupled with the run game that they've had the playoffs so far, going to be tough to beat. So I'll go with the Eagles in this one.
I've been going back and forth on this hard because I do think the Eagles are the better, I don't need to say it for a fourth or fifth time, but the better overall team. I just can't. I can't bet against Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. This is whenever he's undefeated as an underdog. Granted, I believe that record is only like 3-0 or 4-0 because he's never a dog. But I gotta go Mahomes here. I'm gonna take him straight up, and I think it'll be an amazing game. I'm hoping that it's gonna be like a 31-28 type of a game. But maybe the Eagles go into that final drive up by 4, and Mahomes just has a minute and a half left, and Mahomes with 90 seconds to finish the game.
Scary stuff.
You kind of know what's going to happen there. So I'm going to ride with KC here. I'm going to ride with Mahomes, and if you can hear it in my voice, not a lot of confidence, but I have to believe in this guy. He's next level. He's already in legendary status. He's already a Hall of Famer. If he retired after this game, guy's just next level. So I'm going Patty Mahomes and the Chiefs. And you got to give the head coaching edge also to Kansas City. I know Sirianni's had a really sweet season, kind of out of nowhere, especially after his opening press conference when he was struggling to put sentences together, kind of like how I am sometimes on this podcast. And then the weird thing where he was talking about when he was doing his draft prep and his player interviews, talking about doing tic-tac-toe and Scrabble and rock, paper, scissors to figure out how competitive these players are, that kind of stuff. I mean, the guy's a weird cat, but apparently it's working. I still give Andy Reid the props here, the credit here, and the edge here. So I'll go KC.
All right, so let's get into some of our prop bets here. So Jel and I are going to go back and forth here with variety, whether it's stats, yardage as a player is going to get. So we've got stuff from the coin flip, halftime show, and surprise one at the end that I always love to do. But we're just going to kind of keep going back and forth here. Just reading one off and we'll react to it and go from there. So we'll have a little competition here and something fun to do. If you want to play along as well, you can write it down, see how you do, tweet at us, see how many you got right, and we'll kick it off from there. After that, we'll get into our Drew locks and, of course, the Waste Management Phoenix Open, get our picks there. But prop bets for Super Bowl 57. Going to kick it over to you, Jel, to kick off our prop bets. What is the first one that you have?
All right. Well, we already kind of touched on AJ Brown, and I'm going to go straight up AJ Brown for MVP here at plus 1,800. And the reason I want this, the reason I take this bet is because of that number. A $25 bet is a $450 return. So I'm just loving the number here at that plus 1,800. We already gave you the stats that KC ranks 31st out of 32 teams in terms of their defense against number one receivers, in terms of yards given up. If AJ goes off for 140, 2 scores, and Jalen only throws for 240, you got to give the edge to AJ here. And I love that number. I love that payoff. I'm going to go AJ Brown MVP. Cha-ching. Big money, baby. Big money.
Oh boy. I like it. All right, Jel, I've got an over-under for you. Total combined yardage of all touchdowns made by Kansas City. It's set at 40.5 right now. So they don't have Tyreek Hill. Obviously, that number would be a lot bigger if Tyreek was there. But total KC touchdowns, do you like the over or under in that one at 40.5?
I think I'm taking the over on that. We did see that one really miraculous throw last week from Mahomes to, I believe it I don't know, one of their no name wide receivers for about 20-25 yards. If he has another one of those, plus you figure there's another 2 touchdowns in there, that number, that 40.5 number is obliterated. I'm going to take the over and bank on there being one 20+ yard touchdown in there. And I figure there's going to be at least 2 more scores in there. So
nice. What bet do you like as well? What's your next prop bet?
I'm going to roll over to Kansas City first touchdown. Travis Kelce is the favorite here. They don't put quarterback passing touchdown, so it's generally that quarterback would have to run the ball in. Kansas City first touchdown. Travis Kelce is the favorite. However, I'm going a little wild card here. Tony Baloney.
Oh, wow.
Plus 800. Again, I like the number. $25 bet. That's going to cash you a real nice number at $200 in the bank. So I'm loving the number. Tony Baloney, wild card pick. You never know how Kansas City's going to score. They might do, we saw them against the Raiders. They did their little, ring around the rosy and then lined up Jerick McKinnon at quarterback and ran an option. Like, you never know what they're going to do. I could see Tony Baloney getting involved in some type of play, especially if they're inside the 5-yard line, and throw him in motion and he gets the ball out in space and he just gets her done. So going with our man, Tony Baloney.
Nice. I like it. All right, Jel. This is one that we did last year that I kind of liked, and it kind of brings in a lot of different factors because there's not a lot of stoppage, but will there be a score in the first 7.5 minutes of the game on either team? Last year, I believe it was just past it. I don't think it made it into that first allotted time, but
this one's such a wild card because it could start off so slow where it's punt, and it could be a 5-yard or a 5-minute drive ending in a punt.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to that second drive and it's like, will they make it? I think the odds are always on yes, that there will.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say there will in the first 7.5. It could be, this game starts out 3-0 and that bet cashes. So I'm going to say yes, there will.
Yeah, that's kind of where I sit too with this one. I think we're going to see a fairly high scoring one in this one with 2 potent offenses. So I like a score here in the first 7.5 minutes too.
All right, let's go over to the fun side of the ball. Total punts. And I want to get your thoughts on both teams. Both teams right now, even odds are set at 3.5. 3.5 punts for each team.
Okay.
Where are you leaning, buddy?
Ooh, man. I'm going to say the under. I don't think there's going to be a ton of punting in this one. I think there might be a little bit feeling it out, but after that, I think we're going to see a fairly high scoring game in this one. So
you going under on both teams?
Yeah.
Yep. I wrote in all caps, take the unders.
Nice.
Like you've got 2 coaches that are both relatively aggressive. Andy Reid back when he was with the Eagles was more aggressive than most head coaches in the league. Nick Sirianni, just as aggressive, especially on 4th and short, knowing that he's got Jalen Hurts to, be able to run the ball. And that gives you an extra, that QB, those QB runs, that gives you an extra man on offense that you wouldn't normally have when he drops back. So analytically, it makes sense to go for it on most of these 4th and shorts. You've got the 2 MVP candidates going head to head. I think that it's going to be unders on both as well. I don't see either team punting 4 times. That seems like a lot.
Yeah.
4 punts for either of these teams. So I'm going unders as well. It might be 3. It might be 3 for both teams, but I don't see a 4th punt.
I know one of the ones that everyone loves to throw some cash down is towards the start of the game here, Gel. And do you have any insight on if that coin's going to land heads or tails?
Well, I believe historically, so what's weird is you can't go off of, your typical just heads or tails quarter because they're all custom built and everything, where you've usually got the Chiefs logo on one end or on one side and the Eagles logo on the other. I'm trying to think of which logo has more surface area. They're probably comparable because I think the Chiefs probably use the arrowhead, which is also similar in shape to the shape of the eagle head. Unless
dive here, folks. Deep dive.
If KC goes with if they just put their helmet on there, that may have less surface area, although it might flip a little. You'd have one side of that would be a little more top heavy than the other. I'm going to go, well, shit, it's heads or tails. I'm not even picking a team here. I'll go tails. Tails never fails.
I like it.
Is that enough? Is that enough for you? You don't have any insight on this?
Nope. Going tails because it never fails.
Fair enough. All right. This one's really tempting to take the underdog and take that plus money on. Will Kansas City score every quarter? Right now, the favorite is no at minus 260, but if you take the yes, you can get some real nice plus money where you take the yes, you put down $25, you could end up cashing over 50. Versus if you take the no, you have to lay, I believe, like $58 to win 25. So what's the smart move here? And do you have an inkling one way or the other?
Me personally, I hate cheering for teams not to score. So I'm going to go with the yes here and cheer for them to score every quarter and take the plus money with that. First quarter scares me a little bit. Maybe they have that 5-minute drive to kick off the game and don't score. Eagles have a little bit of a drive, and then maybe Kansas City gets the ball back with a couple minutes and the clock runs out. So that's probably the only quarter I think that scares me a little bit with that one. So you might be out right off the bat, but like I said, with almost all these, I think it's going to be a relatively high scoring game. And I think ultimately then that would be the Chiefs scoring in every quarter. So,
yeah, I mean, if I had to put money on this, I would take the no. I would say no. Just there's always that Philly defense is definitely legit to shut them out of one quarter. But that's no fun. But that's why they make you lay all that extra juice on the favorite, is because everybody wants to bet on scoring. Everybody wants to bet overs. So I get it, but I'd say probably the smarter bet would be no, but I'm not going to bet no scoring. That ain't right.
Boring.
No scoring is boring.
All right, Gel, this is one of my favorite ones every year. What color is that Gatorade going to be that's dumped on the winning coach?
I want to save that one for the end.
Okay.
I want to save that as the last good one.
All right.
Do you have another one before that?
I do, but it's also a funny one. So why don't you give your last one and then I'll go through my last two.
All right. I just figure Gatorade dump, last event of the Super Bowl. All right. First song that Rihanna sings.
Oh, that was the one. It was the one I was going to ask. We Found Love. That's mine that she's going to open up with.
We found love in home.
Or Rude Boy. That would be my
Rude Boy. Rude Boy would be awesome. I love that song. There's a lot of good. I think this is going to be an awesome show.
Be a good one.
I'm like, there's a lot of good shit out there. I'm pretty pumped. It's going to be interesting to see like how many guests she brings up and stuff too. Mm-hmm. I know Jay-Z, he's the favorite as like one of the guests to come on stage. Eminem's been in a number of her songs. He's up there. Both those guys were in last year's show. So I'm pretty pumped for that. I ended up going with This Is What You Came For. Lightning strikes every time she moves.
That's a good one.
If you watch that music video too, It's perfect. It's like her in the music videos, basically like her walking out onto stage with all this, like all these flashing lights and all this, you can tell I did my research, and the dry ice, the fog machine coming up at her ankles and stuff. So I think that one is teed up as the first song. Although I believe the favorite in the clubhouse is Please Don't Stop the Music, which that doesn't make sense to start. I feel like that would be like the last song, not the first one. The music is just beginning. Like, I hope it doesn't end already.
Yes. I saw Umbrella on the list, and that would just be a terrible opening song for her.
Unless it rains.
Even play at all. Yeah, in Phoenix. Not
a good point. Prince style. Prince is out there in purple rain, and it's raining.
Right. This one is one that I think is teed up a little bit, Joe. I'll go back to just kind of a sports one. I'll throw one of my other ones in right now, but most pass completions. I mean, Mahomes, Hurts, maybe if they're down, it seems kind of teed up, or am I overthinking it?
I think you're overthinking it. Philly loves to run the ball. KC loves to pass the ball. And this isn't the KC offense of, back when they had Tyreek Hill, where it is a lot more of a methodical offense than it used to be when they could just bomb it 60 yards downfield for Tyreek Hill. Now it takes 5-6 plays to do that. So I think you're overthinking it. I'm going to take Patrick Mahomes here over Jalen. I believe right now Mahomes is the favorite by 4.5 completions.
Okay. Yep.
So
that sounds right.
Would you, with those 4.5 completions, I think I'm still taking Mahomes here. Yeah. I think Jalen maybe goes like 22 for 28 and Mahomes goes for like 34 for 45. I'm still taking the 4.5 completions. I see Philly running the ball. Because I don't see them being down big. Otherwise, why would they be passing the ball that much? So I'm gonna take Mahomes even with the 4.5 completions.
Sounds good. All right, Joe.
Granddaddy of them all.
Gatorade time. What color is that Gatorade going to be on the winning coach?
Blue, I believe. I don't know the whole abadi abadi. So I'm going blue.
I also have blue written down, so it's not going to be blue.
Nope, no chance now, man. I said before we started recording, I got insider info. It turns out, like, I don't know, it's something like 6 of the past 8 winners have dumped Gatorade or blue Gatorade.
Okay,
and that doesn't count the one where the Patriots walked off against the Falcons, because I don't think they could get to Belichick after they beat the Falcons.
Nice. All right, Jel, sad moment on our podcast, but it is time for our final playoff Drew locks of the season, our final Drew locks of the season. You took over first place last week, so it is 92.17 to 89.43, so it got a barn burner going. And
thank you, Christian McCaffrey. Thank you, Travis Kelce. No thank you to AJ Brown. Although you had duds from Mixon and Goddard, which Goddard had a really nice postseason up until last week.
Yep.
But they just didn't have to throw the ball.
Yep. If you're new to the segment each week, John and I pick a quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end. We get their fantasy points. Once you use a guy, can't use them again. Can't pick the same one as your opponent for the week. We've been alternating each week, and the culmination Super Bowl. Jel, you have the first pick. Where are you headed?
We're going to head over to Phoenix for the Super Bowl. And I'm going to go Devonta Smith. I've already used AJ Brown. As I just mentioned, he gave me a dud, but I think Devonta Smith is the best wide receiver. The best other wide receiver option in this game. He's had some really nice weeks this postseason. If they do get thrown the ball, maybe he'll get another BS reception that doesn't get overturned like his first catch in the game against San Fran when the ball was clearly dropped on that about, what was it, a 40-yard or so catch that was clearly dropped but never got reviewed and therefore not overturned. I'm hoping he does another, gets another one of those. And I can ride that wide receiver position.
I have to say, Jel, I am so excited you picked Devonta Smith because I thought for sure you were going to screw me at the quarterback position. I had already taken Patrick Mahomes, and I only have Jalen Hurts as an option. So that is where I am going. Jalen Hurts for my first pick. I thought I was going to have to decide between Gardner Minshew and Chad Henne today, folks, but I will rock Jalen Hurts.
Oh my God.
Yes. As that is my only option. I do think he'll have a decent game. I wish I had Patrick Mahomes for this one, but picked him last week. I thought I was going to get the old goose egg. For the record, I would have went Gardner Minshew for them maybe running some sort of Philly special on a fake field goal or something. But thank you, Joe.
That was so dumb.
Late Christmas present. Thanks, buddy.
Just want to make sure this is a fair fight.
I guess. Appreciate it.
God damn it. Idiot. All right. God, this is so dumb. Why do I do this?
I was so mad last week. I thought you were going to take Hurts, so that way you were guaranteed to have Mahomes or Joe Burrow, two guys I had already used, and then you went with Joe Burrow, and I was like, crap, you have the first pick, and all I have left is Jalen Hurts. So, whew.
I don't know. I don't know. Make it a fair fight. All right. That's it. That's all I'm going for. All right. Well, let's move over to my second pick. I'm going Isaiah Pacheco.
Sounds good.
Fucking A.
I am going to go with Miles Sanders. So I'll take the opposite running back there. Hopefully he gets a nice ground game going for Philly.
Well, why don't I take the only remaining quarterback in this game? I don't know what I just did. I wasn't thinking. Patrick Mahomes.
Sounds good. I am going to go with the guy that did not perform for you last week in AJ Brown. So I'm going to hopefully get that nice stack. I have a lot riding on the Eagles this week, apparently, with Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, and Miles Sanders.
And Dallas Goedert on my end. That leaves you with Travis Kelce.
You betcha. Saved him for this moment. Super Bowl Travis Kelce. So we'll see.
I could have walked away with a freaking W.
You could have. Oh man.
This will be fun. At least I've got a nice little 2.5-ish point lead. So make it, this will be fun now instead of me just walking away with a W.
I was kind of hoping that you would take Jalen Hurts and then I'd somehow get a victory with Gardner Minshew as
Minshew mania. No, you weren't thinking. You weren't going Chad Henne. You weren't thinking that way.
No,
he had a 98-yard drive.
I know, but I don't see Mahomes coming out of this one, and I don't see Hurts either. But I figured maybe they have some sort of trick play dialed up for Gardner at some point in time.
I swear to God, if they actually run a Philly special, which doesn't work anymore.
First play of the game.
First play of the
game. What are the prop bet odds on that?
Yeah, first reception for Philly is Gardner Minshew.
Love it.
That would be amazing. Plus like 45,000 has to be at least.
On to
better odds for it to be like Jake Elliott, their kicker.
Right.
Idiot. Which that actually could. Does it count as a reception if it's on a 2 conversion? Because let's say they get a pick 6 and they run it in. They go for 2 with a fake field goal and he throws it to the kicker. Does that kicker get a reception? if it's on a 2-point play, it counts. I know in fantasy it counts as a 2-point conversion, but does it count reception as well?
I don't know.
Let me God damn, what is stump? We just got stumped. Hey Schwab, come help.
Time for some golf, Joe. We got
Yikes.
the Waste
God
Management Phoenix Open.
I'm in a rotten mood now.
First designated event of the tour, like I had mentioned earlier. 20 million person this one. Had a doozy last year, defending champion Scotty Scheffler with the playoff victory over Patrick Cantlay. TPC Scottsdale, don't need any intro with that one. Par 71, 7,200 yards. Fantastic course to watch on TV, and for crowds, it's just unbelievable. Gonna run off a little list of some notables here, Jel.
TPC Scottsdale, all those TPC courses are public, correct?
Correct, yes.
So you could play this. I wonder what that rate is.
Probably pretty penny.
Not gonna be cheap.
Notables in the field this week. Went through the field list, so this is all alphabetical, folks. Bear with me here while I read off this massive list. Keegan Bradley, Patrick Cantlay, Joel Damon, Jason Day, Tony Baloney Finau, Matt Fitzpatrick, Tommy Fleetwood, Ricky Fowler, Max Homa, Billy Horschel, Big Dick, Victor Hovland, Sungjae Im, Tom Kim, Kevin Kisner, Matt Kuchar, Shane Lowry, Hideki Matsuyama, Rory McIlroy, Taylor Montgomery, Colin Morikawa, John Ramalama Ding Dong, Xander Schauffele, Scotty Scheffler, Jordan Spieth, Heath Theegala, and Justin Thomas, along with a lot more of a notable field as well. Harry Higgs is out there as well.
Yeah.
Didn't get him in there, but huge field this week. And it's with that, again, designated event, the purse is up in this one. This is what they wanted. They want the huge.
That's crowd. Up what, 7 million total?
I think it was a huge upgrade, maybe even 10. I can't remember what they did with that, but yeah, they wanted the huge field, huge crowds. They wanted this one of the premier events on the tour, which it already was, but to add in a field like this is just going to be some awesome TV leading up to that Super Bowl. So
just real quick while we're talking about the field, and we mentioned in the last episode that the leaderboard was kind of weak at the Pebble last weekend. Do you think that's because a lot of guys were taking the week off so that they could prep for this, knowing that it's a super marquee event at this point?
100%. You had the Amex that was a decent tournament, first one stateside of the season, and then it followed up with Pebble Beach, which I think
the Amex had a really nice field
leaderboard too. Yep. And Pebble Beach too is kind of one of those tournaments that are hit or miss. Pros, you're paired up with an amateur, so it's kind of a format that maybe some guys don't like as much. But I think ultimately what has been a downfall for Pebble is when the NFL switched over to 7 wildcard teams and they added in that extra weekend or extra couple games for the playoffs, they ended up shifting Pebble Beach in front of Waste Management. It used to be afterwards, but with the Super Bowl being a week later than it had been in the past, Pebble got moved up to fill in that gap weekend. And another thing that hurts it, the Genesis, Tiger Woods Invitational Tournament is the following weekend.
Yeah.
So a lot of guys don't want to play 4 weeks in a row, 3 weeks in a row. So they took a break for Pebble, get geared up for the designated event of the Waste Management. And another, I believe the Genesis is another elevated event next week, which obviously should be with it being Tiger's Invitational. So
how many of these elevated, or do you know how many of these marquee events there are? I know that
I don't know off the top of my head. Obviously the Waste Management, I think the Genesis, they elevated Sawgrass even more too. I think that purse went up. Arnold Palmer
should be,
and then
Valspar,
Jack Nicklaus's the Memorial, I think, got elevated too. I think that is it. I could be missing one too.
Not the John Deere?
No. Nope. John Deere, 3M, Rocket Mortgage.
Sorry, Midwest.
Better luck next year. Who are with this huge field, Gel? There's got to be some nice betting odds. Who are some of the favorites this week?
Yeah, I mean, I guess no shock as to who the favorite is this week. It's John Rama Lama Ding Dong. Yeah. At at plus 700. Right behind him, Rory at plus 900. Taking a little bit of a step back to last year's winner, Scotty Scheffler, to plus 1,400. Xander Schauffele right behind him at 1,500. Then Colin Morikawa at 1,600. So I guess, just to put this in layman's terms, when I say plus 700, that means 7-1 odds. So you bet $100, you win 700. Just to make the math a little easier on that. But yeah, I mean, obviously that's about as star-studded of a top five as you're going to find right now. And at this point, it could be anybody's ball game. Last year this is what I hated about the live separating and all these golfers separating from the PGA Tour. Brooks Koepka finished tied for third in last year's event and
won it the year before.
He's nowhere to be found. He's playing in live, and the live is on the CW. There's no relevance to any of these golfers right now. And it sucks. Nobody follows live. I mean, it's like, yes, all these guys went over there for the payday and everybody knew that's why they went. And most of them didn't hide that's why they went over there. But it's still it cheapens the weekend. It cheapens some of these tournaments. I would love for Brooks Koepka to be in here, but I guess it is what it is. Thankfully, we're not short on stud golfers. Obviously, all the names that you just read off. So it's just a little, I don't know. This is the reason that I hated this live movement, was just because I don't care. Go make as much money as you want. I want everybody to make as much money as they want. Just as a viewer, as an entertainment product, it gets cheapened. Imagine if the NFL split back into the NFL and the AFL like it was back before they merged. Imagine if we had Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers in separate leagues. That would suck. So, just it's a little disappointing. But yeah, I mean, it's still a loaded field, so shouldn't be complaining too much.
Right. All right, Jel, time for our picks. Each week, Jel and I, starting with the Century Tournament of Champions, pick a golfer, whatever their score is relative to par. That is the score that you get for the week. Keeping track of running totals. Cut doesn't matter. If they miss the cut, whatever they finish at after round two, that's a score that you get. That's a tiebreaker at the end of the season in case we tie for strokes. Whoever has the least amount of missed cuts wins. And you can't pick the same golfer as your opponent for the week. I am still down, so that means I get first pick. Gel's got that 4-stroke lead over me. Keeping it rolling.
1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a thumb war. 5 on 3. Or wait, shoot. 4 on 3. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Lead's been diminishing though lately, Gel. The last couple weeks.
But... Sorry, I dominated too much to start off. I don't know what to say.
It's kind of reflecting last year, except reverse roles, but
reverse.
We'll see. This week, I was torn between so many good golfers. Ultimately, I am going to burn a bigger name here this week. This person made his debut at the Waste Management Phoenix Open in 2018. Since then, he has been 5 for 5 with cuts. Every single one of his starts has been in the top 20. Last two starts on the PGA Tour, T3, T13. Last year in this tournament, finished in third place, one shot off of the playoff. Rolling with Xander Schauffele. Xander Schauffele. Xander Schauffele is made for this course. He has done very well here. He loves interacting with the crowd. Doesn't seem to affect him too much. So I'm gonna roll with him this week. Always a fun golfer to cheer for.
Well, you stole one of them that I had written down.
Nice.
That was my number one option.
Yes.
First time you've done that to me this season. Although yes. I got you week 1.
You did.
So with Morikawa.
When we had every golfer available to pick, and you picked one that I had written down.
So we're tied 1-1 in stolen golfers. So that's going to leave me with option 2. And it's going to be this player that tied with Hideki Matsuyama in 8th place last year and was my 2022 pick for the Phoenix Open, Justin Thomas. I just like how he both, and this is why I love Xander as well here. Both these players love playing up the crowd, and I think they get amped with the crowd, and this is the most interactive crowd experience you're going to find on the tour. So that's why these were my 2 top picks in Xander and Justin Thomas. So obviously I can't criticize your pick because that would have been mine, but I also love my pick in Justin Thomas and going back-to-back years with him. He did me well last year, finishing 13 under, so, and tied for 8th. So I'm going to ride that train one more year.
Yep. Yeah, I almost went with my pick from last year too, Hideki Matsuyama. He always has a fantastic tournament here as well. And another one that I was torn between two, Rory McIlroy is just on a ridiculous stretch right now, coming off of a victory 2 weeks ago over in Saudi.
Did he win in Dubai?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Yep. So he was one, but I'm like, I hate burning some of the huge names. But Xander's one that I always had a tough time picking him for a tournament last year, like which one was one that he was going to do well with. So this is one I think he's.
But he finished off last year so well that I'd be picking him with 100% confidence right now.
Yep. All right, that'll wrap up this episode. Can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on Facebook at Dead Arm Sports. Go to YouTube, type in Dead Arm Sports. Make sure you subscribe. Click the bell below the screen. That way you know when our live episodes drop. Thank you, Jel. Monitor that chat all of the time, so that way you can ask us any questions there. If you do miss out asking us questions there, hit us up on our socials at Dead Arm Sports, at DosGel, at DosJPEG. We'll be sure to give you a response there. We'll answer your question either on the show, hit you back if you need something quick, or maybe throw it into our next mailbag episode when that pops up. Subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. Send us a screenshot of your written review, and we'll get you some swag. Jel, what are those platforms?
Hit us up on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and or Google Podcasts. Make sure to subscribe, rate, review to whatever your chosen listening platform is. Take a screenshot of that written review, send it to us on our socials at Dead Arm Sports on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and also make sure to find us on YouTube. Search Dead Arm Sports. You'll find us there. Subscribe and hit that bell to make sure you get all of our alerts whenever we go live, whenever we put on any sort of new content.
All right. Hope everyone has a fantastic weekend watching the Waste Management Phoenix Open. If you're there, send us some pictures. Tag us on our socials at Dead Arm Sports. Show us getting rowdy in the crowd. Hope with everyone has. Yes, with your
not
cup.
with your cans.
Hope everyone enjoys the Super Bowl. Hopefully it's a great show. Be safe out there, and we will be back with you next week. Jel, close her out.
Why are chickens so awesome? Because?
So stupid.
So bad.